Hello, everyone. Umberto here. This is a last minute kind of live stream. I wish I could meet you guys in better circumstances, but the subject is very urgent and I think I need to spread this as fast as I can. So, in today's live stream, actually, I'm here in Texas in vacation, but I need to step away just to make this announcement. So, I have a very special guest today, Blake Shook. He is the owner of Desert Creek Honey in Texas and many other endeavors. He's an entrepreneur, a young guy, young generation that I would love to bring him in different circumstances to the show, but unfortunately, we have a lot of things going on right now. The big die-off of honeybees going on, and I want to hear from directly from him what's going on and update everybody at home to see if we can do something about it.
Hey,
Hey,
Umberto, great
Blake,
to see you.
it's great to see you. Thank you very much for your time, man. I know the circumstances are not great. Can you give us an overview about what's going on and where we are and what can we do about it?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for having me. I also wish it was under better circumstances than it is. Um, I would say the current issue that we're seeing has been unfolding over the past 3 weeks. Well, it's been unfolding over the whole fall and winter, but I would say about 3 weeks ago, those of us that broker a lot of bees, do a lot of work in California, receive a lot of bees, started getting whisperings of some concerns of, boy, we sure are seeing a lot of bad bees. And I know for my own company, we broker a lot of other people's bees. And so we were just getting truckload after truckload after truckload of bees from all over the country. And man, we would go through them and like some of them 80%, 90% would be dead or weak or really bad. And so I started talking to a lot of other people, other friends, other brokers, other beekeepers. And as bees started coming out of sheds, out of cold storage over the past 2 weeks, the losses just continued to increase. And so, beekeepers that I've worked with for a decade who have always had phenomenal bees year after year. I mean, one of them had a 90% that were just dead. And he's never had a loss like that. Some of the biggest beekeepers in the US are seeing, conservatively 50 to 60% losses. And usually these are operations where we might see a 10 to 20% wintertime loss. And instead, we're seeing 50, 60, 70, 90% losses. And it's not isolated just to one or two operations or one or two regions. It seems to be spread throughout the whole industry and at a level that I don't think we've seen since 2006 and 2007 when CCD first hit. And in fact, I would say that this is far worse because in 2006 and 2007, our average annual loss rate was, I don't know the exact number, but more like 15%. And then we had a year where all of a sudden we jumped to 40% range and everyone panicked. This time we're already at 45% average annual loss rate, and now we're adding another 40% on top of that. So that's why this time it's so much more concerning, but it's eerily similar to what we saw in 2006 and 2007.
Oh man, that's so terrible to hear. What are the do you know you mentioned there's all over the country. You mentioned there is some similarities with CCD. You mentioned similarities only by the numbers, or there is some symptomologies that you saw that also bring the idea of CCD back.
Yeah. So I was referencing the numbers, but I think with symptoms we're seeing something a little bit, well, quite similar. And it's not something that we're pinpointing to, oh, it's just mites, or it's just pesticides, or it's just viruses. It seems to be hives that were in, a lot of these operations were reporting fantastic hives in the fall. So their bees looked really good. And I've seen it firsthand in my own operation. The bees looked phenomenal going into winter. We said, hey, this is going to be a great year. And then these great strong hives, you know, when you start looking at them in January, were just dead or gone. No bees left in the boxes, plenty of stores left. Um, Varroa levels seem to be managed with no high levels, no apparent reason for this to happen, but yet it is.
Wow, that's terrible news. But I cannot say that I'm surprised, like based on things that I see in the field. Let me go back and talk a little bit about my experience with CCD. CCD was the what brought me to United States. I don't know if you know that,
Mm.
but at that time, 2006, CCD was hitting pretty hard, and there was an article in Science magazine linking. I don't know if you remember that. You probably were very young at that time. It was IAPV, Israeli acute paralysis viruses, was on the top of the list of the potential causes, and they're looking. The USDA were looking for a virologist, and a virologist with experience in similar viruses, and also have some background in beekeeping. And apparently, I was one of the few candidates around the world. So they brought me in, and I spent 2 years and a half working with CCD samples. And long story short is that I couldn't, in all my expertise, find anything, zero. And I know there is a lot of reports, but I'm talking about myself. Now I'm out of the USDA, out of the government, completely independent. I can say whatever I want. I didn't find anything on those things. And the only thing that I couldn't measure because of resources and stuff was pesticides. But I'm not going to bring that up. But I, I'm bringing that up. The reason I'm not, and since then, I start to be very curious about those things and building my expertise and analysis. And the theory I always have, and I'm bringing my channel all the time, is these things happen in it's like waves. The bees are able to support the different something until they boom, and then the survivors they come back, and then they add new things, combinations of stuff. A new chemical, new treatments. You never know what the combination
Yeah,
of, but the bees are very tough. People don't know that. Honeybees are tough, and then keeps going and boom, going boom. It's just a matter of time when something happened that boom. And I think we reach one of those moments. And I'm very curious to see how the people is gonna handle the situation right now, what kind of samples they're collecting, and especially what they're measuring on those. Because I remember at that time they measure everything except that. I mean, with intention, like
mm,
when you're gonna measure just this little thing here just to cover my ass, but you know that you can test all kind of stuff, but you couldn't. Ben, okay. So I'm asking you, do you know what the people are doing right now? Did you anybody reach out to you or collect samples? What's the situation?
yeah, yeah. Great question. And I will say the silver lining of CCD was that we got you into the US helping with that. So we're thankful
Sure.
for that silver lining out of CCD. Um, and yeah, there have been a lot of samples taken. So there have been researchers from many different agencies and groups all over the Central Valley of California. They are taking dead bee samples, live bee samples from dwindling hives, varroa samples from live varroa and dead varroa on bottom boards. And they're taking a lot of comb samples as well. So they're taking comb and pollen samples stored in those hives that died, and presumably, we're going to get pollen from back in the fall when something could have happened to the bees. So yeah, pretty thorough amount of samples being taken
And when
from
you
many
say they,
operations.
is the USDA, independent researchers? Who is collecting? I think I missed that part.
Yeah, my understanding is yes, all of the above. And so yeah, there have been I've been contacted by multiple agencies and independent groups as well to collecting samples. So there has been a tremendous amount of attention already on this. Now it's going to take a long time to get those results back,
That's
unfortunately.
true.
And so we won't know anything for a while as far as what those sampled. My theory is something happened last summer and last fall, and we're just now seeing the results of it because I've worked with operations where half of the bees overwintered outdoors and half of the bees overwintered indoors. Exact same bees, exact same scenario, management in the fall, and loss rates were terrible on those that overwintered indoors versus outdoors. And so, things like that lead me to believe that I think something happened last fall or summer that impacted the bees, and we're just really seeing the results.
That's terrible news, Blake. And you you mentioned that you a broker too? You deal with a lot of
Yes,
commercial guys.
a lot.
So
Yeah,
my experience, my prediction here is a lot of people are gonna get out of business with this one. If it's that kind of numbers you're talking about, that's gonna be a that's gonna be a punch in the gut to a lot of guys. Do you have any news on that?
yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's not going to be easy. I mean, I think that the loss rates at 40 to 50% is already, if you lose 50% of your hives every year, but the remaining 50% are strong, you can split those 50% just to recoup your numbers. So it's very uncomfortable, but something you can recover from. Once you start getting up into 70, 80, 90%, you just can't bounce back from that, especially if the remaining 10, 20, 30% aren't good, healthy hives. You just can't recoup numbers. Some early things we're already seeing is there's not many bees available to buy on the market because of the demand. And so some beekeepers will have trouble being able to bounce back. They'll have trouble affording to bounce back, even if the bees are available to purchase to regrow. A lot of beekeepers aren't going to be able to afford it. So I think the two things that we need to ask for as an industry right now is one, research. We need funding for immediate research to understand how to prevent this and how to help the hives that are left alive. And then, we need whatever assistance beekeepers can get for these catastrophic losses. So through the ELAP program, some other assistance program, and I don't consider it a government handout. I consider it protecting the United States food security system. And if we want to have domestically produced food and we want a safe and stable domestic food supply, then we have to protect the backbone of agriculture, which is bees and beekeepers. So beekeepers need some help this time, and they need it pretty quickly.
Do you think it's gonna affect the pollination services in right now? The
So the estimates, and this is breaking news, right? And so we've got to
Yep.
be a little careful until we have hard data. But the current estimate is that, and I didn't make this up. I've heard this from a handful of reputable sources. The current estimate is that we're about 300, up to 300,000 hives short for almond pollination, um, which is a big number. That's a huge number, and so that is obviously the first major pollination event of the season. It's the largest, uh, but yeah, we'll see what trickle down effect this has on pollination throughout the rest of the year for other crops. But right now, that's pretty stunning. When the estimates were we were 1 to 300,000 hives long extra last year on almond pollination, and then to go to that much short just shows how massive of a loss there's been.
S- Should we predict prices changes on based on that for the next year or something?
I
Hard to
think I
say.
think I think on the pricing for bees, yes.
Yeah, for
I
bees
think
for
yes.
sure, but food,
But I think for
foods.
food, it's really going to depend on what kind of a season. It's going to depend on weather. So, if you have wonderful pollinating weather on these crops, sunny, warm, great bee flight,
Yeah.
you can set a crop with fewer beehives. If it's cool and rainy and terrible weather and not enough bees, yeah, that's going to absolutely affect the quantity pollinated, produced, and will affect pricing.
Wow. Uh, do you have any pictures or something that we can? take a look
Yeah, I
together or
mean it's a little
something?
depressing,
I
but
know.
yeah,
Sorry,
let
but
me. No, it's okay. Let me see if I can uh, share this successfully. Um,
I think you need to press present and then share screen, and then you have access there.
Perfect. Here we go. Let's see. Can you see that?
Yes.
These are just some pictures that friends have sent me over the past couple of days. So these are all stacks of dead beehives.
Oh,
Um,
that's a lot.
and each stack in these
Holy.
pictures represents probably at least $1 million worth of dead beehives. Um, that's absolutely not taking into effect the pollination value,
Yeah.
the long-term value of these bees, the honey crop lost. But yeah, I mean, I've just been getting flooded with
What
these
is
pictures.
do they have a final estimation? I would say more than 100 million or more, or some.
The current number is, I think, going around is about $140 million of lost revenue and dollars.
Holy
But
cow!
I think that's a very small number that will grow significantly. So yeah, so it's easy to take a lot of these pictures right now. I mean, there's just yeah these stacks of dead beehives throughout the valley right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry to Blake. I know you probably got a big hit too. And
Yeah, I
so,
mean,
what are you doing now? What are we doing with that? So, what's the plan?
yeah. So I mean, every beekeeper is different. I mean,
Yeah,
I have time and age on my side personally, in that I have time to build back and while we've certainly seen highly abnormal losses in our own operation, it's not as bad as some of my friends with that 90, 80, 90%. But we're up. I mean, our losses are up double digits over what they normally are. So we're one of the more fortunate ones. We have the ability to build back from our beehives that are left alive. Um, but a lot of our friends don't. So we'll be helping everywhere we can. And the goal is to figure out what happened, how do we prevent it next time, and then how do we get some relief for the beekeepers with these huge losses and money for science to research these issues further.
I saw on social media that there's Project APSM, which is doing a great job on that. They're circulating a kind of survey. Is that survey related to these
It
losses?
is. Yeah, so Project Apicilm has sent out a survey and it is open until the 10th of February. So just a few more days. If you go to their Facebook page, Project Apicilm on Facebook or their website, you can take that survey. I'd highly recommend everyone do it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to quantify the loss
Yeah,
so that we can go to the USDA, we can go to other government agencies and say, hey, look, we've quantified this problem. This is how severe it is. Early reports back from that are showing, the early survey responses are showing a 50% just 50% wintertime loss. That's not including our normal average annual losses. So that puts you in that 70 to 100% loss range if we look at a 12-month period. So pretty severe, but yes, if you're a commercial beekeeper or a sideline beekeeper, fill out that survey with from Project Apicem.
I don't even know what to think, Blake.
Well, none of us do. I mean, we're all reacting right now, and
I
and
know.
and we're trying to. And the scary thing is, AAA Labs hasn't even hit yet. So,
Yes.
some people said, "Hey, did it hit?" And we didn't notice, and it's like, no, it didn't. But it's what it feels
Any
like.
anything comes to your mind the last spring or autumn or something that might have happened? So you have any theories on? Do you?
Yeah, I have a few main theories, and I don't think it's, when CCD first hit, as you well remember, we had all sorts of crazy, was it cell phones? Was it Wi-Fi?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't think any of that, none of that's happened. But I feel like it's the same old culprits, most likely. I doubt it's something new. It's just something has happened, as you said, something's happened that has pushed the bees over the edge. So they're, like you said, they're very strong, they're very tough, but something has happened that may not even be that significant technically, uh, but it's pushed the bees beyond their limit. And I would say it could be mite resistant, uh, mite resistance to treatments. That could be that. It could be some new pesticides that are on the market that have really hurt the bees more than we realize. I think that there are issues with our pollens, probably that the bees are still eating left over from last fall. There could be some pesticides in those pollens that are still impacting the bees. I think weather plays a role too. You had the Florida and the Southeast hit with hurricanes and then hit with really cold weather really
Yeah.
late. I think that's had an impact. My guess is it's a perfect storm of symptoms hitting the bees, and they just can't take it anymore. So which is harder to deal with in some senses than just,
Yeah.
oh, here's a
It
new pest
yeah.
that we can manage. Um,
It's always a combination of things, and it works like waves, as I said. Is what I'm afraid the most is we are gonna end up in the same situation as CCD, that nobody really know what happened, and when that happened, I really start to think about the potential combinations of chemicals or pesticides and methods, which is something that is very hard to measure, scientifically speaking. How can you measure a combination of two different things that we don't know what it is, or three or four? Those start to become exponentially
yeah,
bigger, the impact that we have, and exponentially lower the chances we get exactly what happened, if that's the situation. And I hope I we're not get in that situation again, that we spend millions of millions and time, we end up not seeing exactly what it is, in a way
yeah,
that, okay, we got it. And then we create this system too, with the, okay, bees dying, people work, people go back to normal. Okay, things go back to normal, bees die, and these need to end.
right,
And I think
right.
common sense need to jump in and start, that we might be pushing too hard and doing too many different things at the same time. I don't know, but like, what your thoughts on that? How you see moving forward, possible light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, I think that more research is certainly needed, and I think, as
Yeah.
alluded to, more diverse research. I think that we have. I think we've learned a lot since CCD, and there's a lot more attention to the plight of the honeybee than there was 15 years ago. Um, so I'm hoping we can build on that and have some lessons learned from all of that. You probably have better insight than I do on that. I know from an industry perspective, beekeepers are tired. I
Yep.
mean, I'm talking to dozens
Yep.
of them a day at this point, and they're just tired.
And the
It's
majority of them are
discouraging.
from the older side now, right? They
Right,
are the
right.
the younger generation like you is kind of rare now, to some people
Yeah,
taking over the business or creating new businesses, because it's too tough, it's too hard. And
right,
this is a
right,
big concern for the country itself. How a country without a way to pollinate their own food is vulnerable. So that's
right.
something that makes me very concerned.
Absolutely, and I hope that gets attention. I hope that I hope there's broad realization that we do have to support this industry in a unique way compared to um, some other forms of agriculture, because bees do pollinate, 80 to 90 different fruits and vegetables, and that is unique in the how broadly they impact our entire food supply. and we really have to support them more thoroughly than we have as a country in the past, if we want to keep them around. So it's definitely time to step in and help the industry, help the beekeepers at a level at which um, we haven't so far.
Yeah.
So I do think, I just want a little bit of hope. Bees are bees have proven to be resilient, and beekeepers have proven to be incredibly resilient individuals. And so I do think we'll survive this. We are survivors. All of ag is. Um, we will get past this. We will find solutions and answers. But uh, my concern grows with every hit to the beekeeper, and it's certainly time for some support.
From the conspiracy theory side, I'm a little worried about the timing of this event. I don't.
Well, it is tough to break through the news cycle, that's for sure, right now.
The timing is really interesting, but I'll keep that for myself. Maybe let's wait more about to to go that path. Let's wait
Fair
a little
enough.
bit more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Blake, well, as I said, we were planning to bring you in for in different circumstances. I want to talk about, you, about your businesses, your ideas, your entrepreneurship. I want you to be the guide for the younger generations, to follow. Unfortunately, we didn't have this opportunity in the first glance, but I really hope to have you back here in the show in the future so we can talk about more about your business and the way you see the beekeeping industry, which I think is truly interesting.
I would love to do that, and I can certainly tell your younger viewers what not to do. I've made most of the mistakes that you could make, but still here to tell the tale. So I would love to have the opportunity to do that at some point.
Okay, so let's see what the people in the chat are. Hello, I'm back.
There you go. I'm
It-
back.
Oh,
Gotcha.
something happened. Okay, I think I'm back. Think I something happened with the internet here. Okay,
Yeah, no
so
worries.
I'm trying to see what the people here on the chat is talking about. So if you guys at home have some questions for Blake or myself, please put in the chat right now so I can see better and ask Blake. Somebody's telling that we are mute. I can hear
Hmm.
Blake.
I
Uh,
can hear you. Yeah.
Let me
And
see.
I will say, these losses are being tabulated with commercial beekeepers exclusively. Um, right now. So I think that we do need to start some surveys with small scale beekeepers as well to understand what the loss rates have been for small scale beekeepers, and that's an interesting data point to look at as well. So I think that's will probably be the next step, is to start some surveys with small and mid-sized beekeepers as well.
Okay. So let me put some comments here so we can start. So just Kara, you're welcome. So yeah, that's the job. I want to bring the information as fast as I can. I do my best. A lot of times I fail. So, but
Don't we all?
okay, yeah. Darlene Bradley, did they ever find the cause? I think you're talking about CCD here. I see this comment at the very beginning of the conversation. My answer to you is no. They don't know. They, at the end of the day, they end up summarizing that is a multifactorial kind of situation where a lot of factors are involved at the same time, but nobody was able to, you know, for sure pointing for one direction only. Let's see other things here. Guys, it's time for the questions. If you guys have questions, just let me know here, and I can see, I don't know if I can see new comments. Let's see here. Question, Hermstein. Why is there a struggle to identify the problem if you're able to study the dead colonies? Oh boy, that's a long one. The problem initially with CCD was that we didn't have the bees. And the bees apparently disappeared. So, and we only have the remaining of the bees, which would be considered, maybe these are not the ones that are not sick. So it's become the big mystery that become colony collapse disorder. It's very hard to try to identify a cause of something when the something is not in our hand. We don't have the best sampling. Is that the same case right now, Blake? Well, I think the sampling might be better right now.
I think it's much better. And I was young during CCD, but not so young that I wasn't already in. I was, I guess, a sideliner or small commercial beekeeper when CCD hit, and so I was pretty involved in the industry as you were. And yeah, I think the sampling, the realization something was going on was much slower, and the response time was much slower during 2006 until 2007. Far faster this time. I mean, within honestly, a handful of us were starting to make phone calls, and within a couple of days, there were already samples being taken. So much shorter turnaround time, much better quality of samples taken this time.
That's absolutely true. I remember in the past, it took forever. People didn't know. Right now, apparently, we are vaccinated. We react much faster, I would say. So that's good to hear, because that's gonna
Yeah,
amplify the chances to find something much faster and much more accurate too.
right, right.
Let's see, another question here. Do you think the traditional Langstroth hive, with its lack of insulation, has a lot to do with the bee losses? Well, Emily, I would say no, since those beekeepers using those hives forever, and the numbers are the same, similar every year. When something happens, is something on top of it. I think Langstroth, and in the past, we have so much big, strong. The beekeeping industry in the past, before Varroa, was so strong, and they were using the same kind of hives at that time. And we were 3 times more bees here than in the last 40 years. So I wouldn't say that. But Blake, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree. We're not seeing a correlation. And yeah, we've been using Langstroth for over 100 years. So and that's what's challenging about the losses this time, is it's not confined to just one region or just one breed of bee or just one situation. It seems widespread. I mean, I've got friends in Florida and Pennsylvania and Minnesota and the Dakotas and California and Texas that are all seeing these crashes, and every one of them runs a different operation. So it doesn't, and again, the data is still pouring in, but it doesn't seem to be limited just to one region or one situation.
Hmm. So, but I need to ask you again that because I heard that, and I don't like to bring kind of, and I had to put this in my title because I heard people saying that is likely worse than CCD at the beginning. And based on your interpretation and the numbers you gave me, I have to agree.
It seems to be the case,
It,
yes.
it
And
seems to be the
again,
case.
data still coming in, but it today it does seem to be worse than what happened with CCD.
Wow. So I just want to make sure my titles are not completely out of, you know, I don't want to be CNN or something like that. So more questions here from DC bees. How many that have been locked at the was the extreme freeze impact of colonists that did not experience the kind of weather? That's interesting. What's your thoughts, Blake?
I mean, it's a fair point in that, we certainly saw extreme weather in the Southeast this year. A couple weeks ago, you're getting snow in Florida,
In Florida,
um,
yeah.
highly unusual. And we did see an impact based on that. We did see a crash in Florida bees, Georgia bees, Southeast, because of that weather. But, um, we're still seeing bee crashes outside of those regions where they didn't have unusual weather. We're still seeing crashes and bees that were overwintered in indoor overwintering sheds, so where they were consistent temperature all winter. So I think that whatever we're seeing happen here, the extreme weather is another layer on top of perhaps accentuating what we're already seeing elsewhere. So I don't think we can blame it completely on that. I think it's a contributing factor, um, but we're still seeing crashes outside of those areas.
Just to clarify to the people at home. So I think the argument here is because this is something that happened recently that's completely new, never happened before. That kind of extreme weather, even in Florida, have this big cold in the south, and in a very specific time of the year that is a time of that could very important timing for the bees to for yeah, it's very important timing. The timing was important too. But you were saying that the difference between those bees were outside and the bees that come from inside sheds, they have the same kind of losses for. So that itself alone, isolated, would not be an explanation. Is that a fair point?
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to be fair, there are beekeepers on all scales that have fantastic bees this year. So it's not every
Mm,
operation across the country is falling apart, but a much larger percentage than normal are, and a lot that have historically not been affected are. So, you know, um, I've got two different operations, and one of our operations has had pretty terrible losses, and the other we're looking pretty good on right now. And so,
mm.
so there are. It is interesting, and then that's one of the things. Obviously, we'll all be looking at in the coming months. Is okay. Why did some perform well and others not? And hopefully, that'll give us some clues as to what's going on here.
Interesting. I already in conversation with a lot of people involved from different agencies to bring them to give their perspectives here. So just to let the people at home to know, I'm not done with this. So I'm gonna bring a lot of other people that have more information for all of us near in the future. So let's see what the people are saying here. Let's see. Hey Daniel, good to have you here. Thank you, Blake and Umberto, for this important update. Are European beekeepers experiencing high loss rate currently as well? Or are these losses linked to US-based beekeeper? That's a good question. Do you know anything about that? Is
It
something related in Europe happening right now?
It's a great question, Daniel, and I don't know. It's certainly something we need to look at. I don't know the answer to that. I think we probably would have heard about it, if it had been happening elsewhere, and I have not heard reports of that. Um, but certainly something good to look at.
Yes, I will be looking for the answer, Daniel. I will send an email out to all my people around the planet to see if somebody heard anything. So I will come back with more information. Just yeah. Uh, DC is asking again. I don't know if we answered that already. Are the majority of the larger losses happening to mostly to pollinator bees? I think that's correct. Is it right?
It's a great question, and I would actually say it's a blend, and and what DCBs is referencing probably is a lot of commercial beekeepers focus on pollination, and so they're moving
Yeah.
their bees from crop to crop to crop to pollinate throughout the year. A lot of other beekeepers focused on honey production, and so they might pollinate almonds, but then after that, they're in areas where there's cleaner forage, and they're trying to just produce a honey crop. Yeah, we're not seeing it to date. We're not seeing a correlation between the two. I mean, we're seeing massive losses to those just focused on honey production and those just in pollination. So, and I've got personal experience with that. I mean, there's two or three operations that I manage their bees for them in California on almond pollination. We broker their bees and massive losses, and all they do is produce honey. So, yeah, it doesn't seem to be limited just to pollinators.
Mm. Oh boy. Okay. I'm gonna keep thinking about that. I'm gonna keep digging for more information. Guys at home, I have to go, unfortunately. So because yeah, Blake, I just want to say thank you very much for your time, man. And let's keep this conversation going. I want you back, maybe with some updates, but I truly
Sure.
want you back because I want you to inspire other younger generations out there because we cannot have the amount of beekeepers following without replacement. So we
Right.
need more of that.
Right.
So I'm gonna
Absolutely.
need your help with that because you've been very successful. You very young with the mentality that I want to spread. So please keep doing your good job. Thank you very much for the work you do, and I look forward to see you back again, my friend.
Yeah, I'd love to come back and on happier terms. So would love to dive in. And thank you for jumping in on your vacation to bring
Sure.
this to light. So that's really appreciated.
My pleasure, my pleasure. For everybody at home, thank you for coming today. Please sign up to my new newsletter. I'm going to be writing a lot extensively about this subject over there. And that it's free. It's just another way for me to communicate. It's easier for me just to write an article and put it out there instead of make a video editing. And in cases like this that I need to move much faster, it's much easier to get the information from my newsletters. Please, so sign up to my newsletter. Go to insidethehive.tv and go press newsletter. It's free of charge, just so you can receive all the information I'm going to be giving to all of you at home. Okay. So again, thank you one more time, Blake. Thank you, and
My
I
pleasure.
we keep this going. Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Umberto. Good to see you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye bye, guys. Bye bye.